Let me begin today's story. Brianna and I had been married a little over 5 years. We weren't flawless, but we had a rhythm that worked for us. Quiet dinners at home, movies on weekends, and inside jokes that still landed after years together. I used to believe that kind of comfort meant we were unshakable. She loved stability, and I enjoyed being the one who kept things steady. But a few months earlier, something had started shifting. She became constantly occupied, always holding her phone, insisting her job needed her late into the night. I believed her, because trust fills in the blind spots you choose not to question. When she said she needed space, I stepped back. When she returned home exhausted, I handled dinner. There was no explosive argument, no dramatic fight, just a gradual closing, an inch at a time, like a door slowly shutting on its hinges. I kept reassuring myself that couples go through rough phases and eventually rebalance. But somewhere beneath that logic, I could hear something different in her voice, emotionless, like echoes with no warmth. Her laughter felt scripted, her kisses brief, as if her mind had already traveled somewhere I couldn't follow. Then came the night everything shifted. It was 3:12 a.m. when Brianna's phone lit up on the nightstand. The screen cast its glow across the bedroom wall. Before hitting my eyes, a soft vibration came next. Sharp, short, loud only because the home was otherwise silent. She didn't stir. She simply shifted in bed, pulling the blanket up with practiced ease. The fading glow reflected off her shoulder before disappearing. I stared at the screen until it turned dark again. I had only caught a single preview line. "You make me feel alive." My stomach didn't twist. My heartbeat didn't race. There was a calmness, the kind you only feel when some part of you already knew the truth long before your eyes confirmed it. I rolled onto my side. The air itself felt heavier. I could have picked up the phone. I could have shaken her awake and demanded answers. But I didn't. Instead, I stored every detail in memory. The words, the time, even the vibration pattern. I knew the rhythm by then. This wasn't the first message she'd hidden. Only the first one I saw. By the time sunlight began seeping through the blinds, I already had a plan. Not for shouting, not for accusations, but for clarity. Brianna always prided herself on honesty. She said it in arguments, in reconciliations, and every time I asked why she seemed distant. "Just be honest," she'd repeat. So I decided I would be, just not in the way she expected. Around 7, I got up. Brianna was in the kitchen humming. The picture of an ordinary morning. But I already knew ordinary was gone. She looked at me as I walked in. "You're up early," she said, smiling like nothing had fractured beneath her feet. "Couldn't sleep?" I replied while I poured myself coffee. She leaned against the counter, her fingers nervously tapping the mug. A heavy pause settled between us, the kind shared by two people who both realize something is about to snap. Then she spoke. "I need to tell you something." I didn't respond. I just waited. "I slept with Michael yesterday," she said. "I didn't want to lie anymore. You deserve honesty." Her voice was steady, too steady, like she was reciting a speech from a self-help book, not confessing to something that should hurt. I took a slow sip of coffee. "Congratulations," I said. Her smile flickered, the confidence wobbling. "That's all you're going to say? Seems like you already said everything." "I thought you'd be angry," she whispered. I replied, 3 months ago." Silence flooded the kitchen. She began explaining. Something about closure, rediscovering herself, being tired of secrets. Her words drifted past me like background noise. I wasn't listening anymore. I already knew the truth long before she spoke. I teed as she continued talking. My mind was already running numbers. 2 years of rent. Her car insurance I paid for. The course she dropped halfway through. The necklace I bought the Christmas before. The medical bill from when she sprained her ankle on vacation. $90,000. When she finally stopped, I gave a single nod. "You said you wanted honesty, so we'll begin there." Her eyebrows pulled together. "What's that supposed to mean?" "You'll find out." Later that night, after she fell asleep on the couch, I opened my laptop and drafted an email. Subject, separation, private and quiet. I sent it to Angela, my attorney. Her response arrived less than an hour later. I'll manage everything discreetly. Exactly what I needed. Angela called the next morning, just as I was parking outside work. Her voice was calm, businesslike, and exactly what the situation required. David, you're looking for a clean break? No public mess. That's right, I said. Then we'll list every shared expense you covered. Simple, factual. I'll have a preliminary statement ready tonight. By the time I ended the call, the first line of the plan was already taking shape. This wasn't revenge. It was equilibrium. That evening, I sat at the dining table, the same one where we'd celebrated anniversaries, and spread out documents, receipts, invoices, bank statements, notes going back years. Each figure felt like an exhibit in a trial I never asked to be part of. Angela's draft arrived near midnight. Clear, concise, and razor precise. At the top, relationship reconciliation statement. At the bottom, total, $90,000 paid on your behalf. I stared at that final line for a long time. It wasn't bitterness. It was closure. Before bed, Brianna hovered by the kitchen counter, her voice suddenly gentle. We need to talk, she said. About what? I asked. Us. What happened? Maybe we can fix this. I told you the truth, David. That should matter. I nodded slowly. It does. It means everything finally adds up. Her eyebrows knit in confusion. What does that mean? You'll understand tomorrow. When I lay down beside her, she was already asleep. At 9:04 a.m., the doorbell rang. Brianna, still in her robe with a glass of orange juice in hand, answered it. A courier stood there holding a brown envelope. Delivery for Mrs. Brianna, he said. She smiled and signed without hesitation, probably assuming it was something romantic from me. I sat at the table, casually browsing emails while she tore open the envelope. The first page slid halfway out before her expression froze. The black firm logo at the top, Angela's name printed cleanly beneath it. She unfolded the page fully and skimmed it, eyes widening. What is this? She whispered. I lifted my mug. A love invoice. Her voice shot upward. A what? Every payment, rent, insurance, gifts, favors. I covered. $90,000 in total. All for you. You can't be serious, David. Completely. She blinked rapidly, rereading the legal structure again. This is insane. You're putting a price on our relationship. No, I answered quietly. I'm establishing the cost of loving a version of you that was supposed to value truth. She let out a short, uneasy laugh. This isn't funny. Neither was the message lighting up your phone at 3 a.m. I replied. Her face went pale. You went to my phone? I didn't need to. She stood there trembling, anger and panic mixing. You're embarrassing me. No, I said, pushing the chair back as I stood. You did that yourself. I'm just finalizing the balance sheet. Her eyes glossed over, though the tears still held. I messed up. Then this is the invoice. I picked up my jacket and headed for the door. Where are you going? She asked, voice shaking. Out. Somewhere quiet. I left before she could reach for another explanation. I drove aimlessly for nearly an hour before ending up in the parking lot of a modest apartment complex on the city's edge. By the third day, she took to social media, posting inspirational lines. Truth stings, but it heals. Growth requires responsibility. Friends started messaging, asking if we were all right. I answered simply, we're balancing the ledger. At work, my colleague Sandy noticed a shift in me. You seem weirdly calm, she said over lunch. Calm costs less than chaos, I replied. She laughed, unaware I meant every word. Later that week, Brianna appeared in the office parking lot. Her eyes were red, makeup blotched at the corners. David, please, we can come back from this. It was just one mistake. I folded my arms. And you've already settled it. This isn't you, she whispered. You're not heartless. I'm not. I'm accurate. That cracked her. Real tears spilled this time. I was trying to be truthful. Isn't that what you always ask for? I met her gaze without wavering. Truth isn't a free pardon, Brianna. It has a price. You just didn't expect the bill. She covered her face and walked away slowly, shoulders falling, as if the weight finally landed. 2 days later, Angela called. She signed the acknowledgement for the divorce. I'll file it today. Quietly, I asked, as requested. By the end of the week, everything was finalized. No courtroom drama, no shouting, no audience. Just ink on paper. That night, Brianna sent one final message. I hope someday you understand why I told you. I typed back a single sentence. I do. You wanted to feel cleansed. I just balanced the numbers. Then I deleted her contact. The next morning, I woke to peaceful silence. No buzzing phone, no emotional performance, just stillness. 2 weeks later, Brianna requested mediation. Her lawyer sent a notice through Gina, a retired judge who held private sessions in a quiet downtown office. I accepted, not to debate, but to close the book properly. When I arrived, Brianna was already seated. She was sharply dressed in a black suit, hair neatly tied back, but her eyes betrayed her, tired and unsettled beneath the polished exterior. Gina motioned for us to sit. Let's stay professional. We're here to finalize the remaining terms. Brianna jumped in first. This $90,000 document is ridiculous. You can't bill someone for love, David. I answered evenly, without raising my voice. I didn't. I billed you for everything that wasn't love. Her attorney shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Mr. David, emotional suffering doesn't calculate the same way rent or utilities do. I slid a folder across the table, which is why I only included things that can be counted. Repairs, living costs, college courses, insurance. Every dollar is documented. Brianna flipped through the pages, her hands trembling. You're doing this just to hurt me. No, I said evenly. If I wanted to ruin you, I'd have taken it public. This is calm, private, accurate. Gina looked at her with a steady expression. Brianna, everything here is backed by records. There's nothing personal about the numbers. Brianna let out a thin, unsteady laugh. You're all talking like I walked into a bank and bought property instead of wrecking a marriage. Sometimes the price tag is the same. I replied. Her voice wavered. You really don't love me anymore, do you? I did. That's how we got to this point. The room went quiet. She wiped her eyes quickly, trying to hold on to whatever control she had left. You win, she whispered. There is no victory here. I said gently, only a balance of 0. She stood, gathered her papers, and left without meeting my eyes. Her lawyer followed. I walked out too, not looking back. The chapter was closing by itself. 3 months later, Angela called. Transfer completed. Full settlement received. Already? I asked. She wired it this morning. Divorce finalized by Friday. I thanked her, hung up, and looked around my apartment. Even the walls felt lighter, like they finally had room to breathe again. Later that day, an envelope arrived. No return address, but the handwriting was unmistakable. Inside was a short letter. I never meant to break us. I thought telling the truth would make things easier. I was wrong. I hope you find peace, even if it isn't with me. I read it twice, then placed it in the same folder as the settlement papers. Just another record of something that once existed. That evening, I drove to the coast. For the first time in months, my mind wasn't replaying arguments or messages. I just sat there, watching the waves come and go like a balance sheet settling itself. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Probably another message from her, but I didn't look. I turned it off and set it beside me. The quiet wasn't heavy anymore. It felt clean. When I got home, Angela had emailed the final documents. Divorce confirmed. Settlement processed. Case completed. At the bottom, the same line from my original note remained. Paid in full. Your way. I exhaled. It didn't feel like revenge. It felt like an ending. That night, I poured a glass of bourbon and stood at the window. The silence didn't echo this time. It settled. 3 months later, life had cleared into a new rhythm. I woke early, brewed coffee, opened the windows, and listened to the city wake up. No buzzing phone. No forced conversations. No tension hiding beneath small talk. The stillness wasn't lonely anymore. It was deserved. Work felt lighter, too. Even Sandy noticed as she dropped a report onto my desk. "You look different," she said. "Like you finally slept." "I did," I answered. "For about 3 months straight." She grinned. "Guess honesty paid off." Eventually, I said, one afternoon, another envelope appeared in the mailbox. No return address again. Same handwriting inside. "I'm leaving town. I'm trying to do better. I hope you are too. No guilt, no manipulation. Just an ending without noise." I folded the note and placed it beside the original invoice, not to remember her, but to remember the lesson. That night, around 3:12 a.m., my phone screen lit up. For a moment, my chest tightened. The same hour, the same glow, but it was only a calendar reminder I hadn't removed yet. I stared at it, then smiled and swiped it away. I hadn't won anything. I had simply stopped losing. Brianna wanted honesty, and she received it in the only currency that ever made sense. Paper, numbers, silence. In the end, the document wasn't vengeance. It was a closing line on a balance sheet. Paid in full. Her way. Thank you for reading.